Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and on this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. We have a question from YouTube user Mean Teacher dash making education a necessity, and Mean Teacher goes on to say in his question, excuse me, in DC and Maryland, no attorneys will take your case against a state agency on a contingency basis, and many of them want anywhere from 20 to 35K up front to go into federal court. They charge 300 to 500 for a consultation and 400 to 500 per hour. I had one lawyer say it would cost me $4,000 per month. Mind you, I was already jobless. I suppose everywhere is different, and maybe the pandemic changed the employment law dynamic. I don't know. First time I experienced workplace discrimination like this, ADA, so Americans with Disabilities Act, I presume. All right, that is really unfortunate. So, DC is a weird place. You would think there'd be a lot of options for employment representation in DC, for a couple different reasons, but I've heard a lot of bad things. So, Mean Teacher, I can kind of back up what you're saying about DC. Now, Maryland, we have a couple of cases in Maryland, and I can tell you it might have been specifically so the pricing models you were served sound horrific, because it sounds like, in addition to a firm trying to charge, a local firm no less, trying to charge you 20 to 35,000 up front, it sounds like they were additionally trying to charge you hourly out of that amount, which is actually worse than any of the national firms that I'm aware of in terms of their pricing. So sometimes a national firm will charge you an upfront retainer, and it's pretty sizable because, you know, they have a big investment in your case, and they want you to share in that investment a little bit. Excuse me. Now, the difference is, as far as I've ever seen, that's generally not going to be hourly. That's a flat rate. That amount that they charge you up front is all they charge you for the entirety of the case, including trial. Which, depending on your situation, might work, might not work, and it would be a flat rate plus a contingency. And I've seen that out of a couple of different national firms. And of course, listen, other national firms are not like super eager to give me their retainer options. Like, they're not. So generally, like, when somebody's leaving another national firm and they like want us to look at the case, it's those situations where I get to see retainer agreements for like other firms, right? So I don't pretend to have the full lay of the land. Like, I don't know what many of the other firms are doing. Let's just be clear about that. But I can tell you that I'm not aware that any of the national firms charge for a consultation. And I've always been very clear on this channel, that I think charging for a consultation is actively disgusting. It doesn't make any sense. The claim is an opportunity for the attorney, and they should be thrilled to hear you out for free and not for nothing. Most employment attorneys are white, Caucasian, and if you're going to make money off discrimination, you ought to at least be helping, especially if you happen to be someone who probably isn't going to experience too much discrimination in your life. Right? So I think that charging for consultation is very, very gross, and I have a number of videos on why I think that. And I've had some verbal fisticuffs with attorneys on the internet about that, and I've received a number of mean letters about that. But those attorneys are bad people who do bad things, and I'd like bad things to happen to them. So I share your disgust for these attorneys charging for consultations. Now, I will say, when you're receiving an hourly representation offer from an employment attorney, often that means they think the case is bad. I'm not saying your case is bad. I don't know anything about your case. But sometimes when you see an employment attorney on the plaintiff side say, hey, no contingent offer, but you can pay me hourly, what they're really saying is, I don't think your case is worth money. And here, that could be because your case is not that great, and I'm not saying that's what the case. It could also be because they don't want to deal with the state agencies in Maryland or the various agencies in D.C. That would not be unheard of. There are many firms, even in New York, who won't actively take cases against New York City or New York State or certain counties. And there's a lot of reasons. State, municipal, county agencies often get free representation. They have their prepaid attorneys on the books that they don't have to pay. And that means they're less likely to settle. It means they'll fight the case longer. It means the case will take more in terms of time and resources. And that's the first reason why employment attorneys don't always like cases against state and local agencies and counties. I don't feel that way. I know a lot of other attorneys don't feel that way, so that's not everybody, but that's one reason. The second reason is, listen, without getting into specifics, I had to chase a county around for quite some time for my client's money on a case that they owed to my client. And the county thought they were going to get cute and refused to vote to affirm the settlement that they reached with my client. And that worked a little while. They're like, we just can't pay because we can't get the legislator to vote on it. So, like, your case, it's settled, but, we can't get them to vote, so we can't pay. And I guess that sounded good to them at the time, but it sounded less good to them when a federal judge was asking me if I wanted to auction a fire truck or a natural gas bus, right? So what you see here is these governments not often understanding reality. Like the best and brightest don't go into state or local government often. And I say this as somebody actively involved in local government, and I love the local government of the town that I live in. But, in New York, which I keep going to as an example because most of my time coming up was in New York, you can run into attorneys who will think like, I just won't have the legislature vote on it, and I'll never have to pay the settlement. My friend, I'm going to mess you up so bad. The idea that you think you're going to enter into a settlement that you're never going to have to pay out on, while there is an attorney hungry to get paid on the other side, first off, that's bad. You entered into an agreement on bad faith, then you tried to subvert the agreement. Like, we can make a variety of ethical arguments there about your license as an individual. Oh, you think you're important? You're not. You work for a county. We messed you up. Like, you're... Right? Like, get a real job, loser. And they try to do shit like that. And you sit there and you're like, are you really this dumb? You really think you can just settle a case and then not pay because you never put up for a vote? Did you really? Really? Can you raid? Does your family love you, or do they just kind of pat you on the head and hope you don't choke? Like, what are we doing here? And you run into those people. And they think they're powerful. Sincerely. Like, they, in their heart of hearts, are like, I rule this county. This agency is my kingdom. Ooh. And you're just like, God, it is going to take me at least 6 hours to beat the piss out of you. Like, figuratively, in a court of law, right? But it's just wasted time and effort and frustration. And that's why sometimes firms, like, won't deal with these agencies, right? My take is like, listen, spend the extra time. But I get why some firms don't feel that way, right? Now, I don't know why people didn't want your case. Could have been either of those reasons. It could have been some other novel reason that I'm not aware of. And again, I will be the first to admit DC is weird. It's weird for a variety of reasons, but it's especially weird when it comes to employment law. And again, you wouldn't think that it would be, but it is. So, listen, mean teacher, I don't know what happened to you. I don't know anything about your case. Obviously, you weren't looking to pay those rates, and I'm glad to hear you didn't pay somebody hourly. Although I hope you did get to bring your case forward. I mean, I guess my takeaway here is like, if you have local attorneys quoting you more than the national firms, generally the national firms went national because they were making lots of money and they could afford to. I'm generalizing, but often that's what we see, right? Like, I've got a couple of names in my head right now, and I can say that those attorneys or their firms became famous to some degree, and or notorious, right? I mean, Avenatti kind of went national in some ways, right before he went to jail. You could make an argument he was taking cases, I think, potentially, like, outside of New York. So I think he might have entered other markets. I don't know that for a fact. So they get famous or they get notorious, and people all over the country start trying to hire them, and then those attorneys start looking into what is required to be a national firm. And the answer is resources. Lots of resources. And if they have those resources, they might then say, okay, we take cases in 20 states. And then it might be 30. And then someday they might get to all 50 states in the United States, right? And like, there's a lot of laws that you have to comply with. There's a lot of things you got to look at. There's certain states you can't advertise in. And there's certain states where, like, yeah, I mean, obviously you can represent somebody in the EEOC, because the Supreme Court's been pretty clear about that, but like the state will still try to fine you. And you can tell them, like, hey, Supreme Court of the United States says you can't do that. And they're going to say, sure, go ahead, appeal us, or pay the fine. It's cheaper to pay the fine, right? Like little attacks from some of the states who think they're going to like prey upon these attorneys, right? So it's a lot to deal with. So you kind of know with the national firms, at the very least, they're well funded, right? And this is not a pitch for you to hire my firm. That's not what I'm engaged in at all. I always say local, hire local. They'll be cheaper. If you can find good representation local, stay local, go local. They should not charge you up front. They should not charge you for a consultation. They should be thrilled to front your expenses. They should work on a contingency, a percentage of what they win for you, right? They're not flying teams around the country, and they don't have all the added expense of a national firm, which is significant. Now, here, though, your local attorneys are more expensive and on much worse terms and seem more dastardly than a lot of the national firms that I'm aware of. I can tell you right now, there really is one national firm that I'm uncomfortable with. Because I don't really know how many employment attorneys they actually have on the books. But I will be a damn sight more comfortable with you going with that firm than you paying somebody hourly on a plaintiff side employment case. Not a chance in hell. Like, there should be a disclaimer. Like, hey, we're concerned about this case. You can hire us hourly if you want, but we're not staking our money on this case because we think it's high risk, right? That is inherently something that should happen. A conversation that should be had if an employment attorney on the plaintiff side is offering you hourly representation. Now listen, in many areas of the country, employment attorneys are required to offer you hourly as an option. And that's fine. There's definitely, listen, there's executives who make lots of money who say, like, Vince, I don't want to give you a piece. I'll pay you hourly. Okay, fair's fair. Like, that's fine. We'll work hourly. We'll have no risk on the case. If that's what you want, then by all means. But if that's the only offer, generally speaking, I'd like to know why. I'd like the client to know why. So here, where it sounds like people are giving you horrible terms and engaging in charging for consultations, which I view as dastardly, villainous, disgusting, and just generally being active monsters. Talk to the national firms. If your case is still viable, like if you still have like claims in play, call the national firms by all means. That's why they're there. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. Those national firms might take one look at your case, and I kind of alluded to this earlier. Like, you got really bad offers, so there's a chance. I don't know anything about your case. There's a chance that your case is really bad. I'm not saying it is. I don't know anything about you. You seem like a wonderful person who's been through some things, so I suspect your case is good. But people call me, and they are like, I got the case for you. And half an hour later, I'm like, no. And don't ever call me, like, what's wrong with you? Like, no claim. Bad person. Stop talking. Like, I have those conversations. I have more of those conversations than I have conversations where I say, yes, this is a beautiful claim. We would love to give you an offer of representation. We would urge you to talk to local counsel. But, if you do want to go with us, here's our offer. Me saying, hell no, happens 19 times. And also, listen, there's different flavors of hell no. This doesn't make sense for us. It's a lot different than, you're a monster, and I don't want to help you, right? Like, and there's a whole spectrum in between. And that's, like, don't, like, I'm not saying if we didn't make you an offer that you're a monster. But I am saying there's a lot more no thank yous than there is, sure, I'll extend you an offer of representation. It's the reality of the industry. I can't run out and spend 40 to 140K on a case that I don't believe in, or I don't think I can win. And somebody's immediately going to post, like, you should risk it for them. You risk it for them. Where's your 140 grand? Get in there. Oh, don't tell me what I should do. You do it. Lead by example, right? But there's always somebody who's like, well, you should do it. Oh, okay, shut up, right? Like, enough. Let me know when you're building people houses for free. Because that's kind of what, like, you can probably pretty much in most of the country build somebody a house for what it costs to litigate a federal litigation in this field all the way to the end, including trial. So I got into this years ago because there was like a builder who was like, if you believe in this, you should just do it for free. Okay. You believe in people having houses? You build houses for a living. How many houses you build for free? You hanging out with Jimmy Carter? Building houses? Just off the cuff? Your own money? Not like getting money from a charity to do it. I mean like your money. Because that's what you're asking us to do when we take a case, right? So, like, listen. I digress. My main takeaway here is, like, if your case is still live, talk to the national attorneys. Because the offers you got locally were garbage. And there's generally going to be at least some kind of proof of concept with even the worst national firm. They made some money somewhere along the way, and generally they're well-funded. So, and frankly, also, many of them are famous for a variety of reasons, most of which are good. So like, you might just want to talk to them if locals are trying to be more expensive than the nationals. I have questions about why that would be the case. Although, with this post from you, I'm starting to understand why people in Maryland have been choosing to hire our firm. Because those offers, ugly. Those are some ugly offers. Those are bad, right? What you're describing to me makes perfect sense in terms of why people in Maryland are like, yeah, I'm just going to hire a national firm. Like, I don't need to talk to these local attorneys. These local attorneys are bad people doing bad things, maybe. I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying all the employment attorneys in Maryland or D.C. are bad people who do bad things. First off, I don't know all those attorneys. Second off, I've never been shopping for an employment attorney in D.C. or Maryland. I've hired local counsel in that area, and I like our local counsel very much, but I've never had to shop for a plaintiff side employment attorney in those areas. So I don't know. I don't know the market. Could be that mean teacher just didn't run into the greatest attorney in the entire world. who she's just sitting in Maryland and she's winning people 30 mil every time, and it just is what it is. And for whatever reason, her number didn't show up on Google when Mean Teacher was looking. That's possible, right? I'm not decrying the state of the legal industry of employment law in Maryland and DC. Except that I'm saying, to whatever extent this is true, what Mean Teacher is telling me, it matches with what I see on my end a little bit, which is a lot of people in Maryland being like, I'm going to hire a national firm, which is always very strange to me, because Maryland and DC should be a place with lots of employment attorneys who do lots of good work, right? So I don't know what to think. But anyways, Mean Teacher, I hope things are okay. I hope you got accommodations. I hope your case went forward. I hope this video, I mean, I don't know if this is helpful at this point. This might have moved on. I hope that you understand that I'm like affirming what you're saying, and I'm not saying your case was bad, but I have to talk about the possibilities, right? I'm not saying your case was bad. I'm saying that often people say things like this. One possibility is their case was really bad, right? But certainly there's a variety of other reasons, ranging from people not wanting to deal with the agencies or the state or whatever it is, to just really bad local attorneys, that things like this could happen. So I get it. I guess that's all I have to say. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Helps the channel to grow. Remember, almost everybody works. Not everybody wins. Not even close. So be smart out there. Take care.